Okay, I have a question that kind of ties in with this, and also what you said earlier, Bob, about identity. Mm-hmm. Because clearly, as I understand the Buddhist tradition, and for example, the Dalai Lama, he is the same mind, or whatever it is, that reincarnates from entity into entity. So there is a continuum of identity throughout those reincarnations. What is that identity?
Well, this is an ancient question. This has been asked 1 billion times, and it's a very good one. And you say continuum of identity, but then remember the word identity comes from the Latin idem, which means the same. So if we take identity, I mean, not that that determines how we might use a term. The meaning of terms is always contextual and conventional in a particular setting. But when we have a notion of intrinsic identity, it means like when I perceive my Bobness, or when I feel my Bobness when someone said, "You suck," and I say, "No, I don't. I'm nice." And then I feel like there's a real Bobness in there that's nice. And when I feel that, I'm feeling something that doesn't change. And also it doesn't depend on, well, I shared my brownie with someone yesterday. It doesn't depend on some circumstance. It's like an intrinsic niceness about intrinsic Bob that doesn't change. That the Dalai Lama is not. That nobody is. That we don't have actually from moment to moment. Atom to atom, subatomic energy. But that's what we think we have. And that's why when we're 65 and we sort of catch our face in the mirror somewhere and we say, "Whoops, where's my jowl going to?" Because I'm 16 or 18 or 27 or whatever it is. Or when we look in the old memory lane picture of ourselves at 30 and we think we're 15. Or it's one of our children or something. And yet we sort of think we're still the same as when we remember being in that place that the picture is of. So that's the delusion that causes us to resist impermanence, resist change, resist openness, resist transformation. And resist death, resist all these things, and in the interest of something that isn't there. Because there is no such same thing. It's like the same thing. It's like somebody says, "Oh, I'm so scared to be nothing when I die. I'm a really mature scientific materialist and I've accepted that Daniel Dennett, will be nothing." But nobody will be nothing. We use the word nothing, we think. Miguel de Unamuno said he was scared of nothing, of the nothing. But how can you be scared of nothing? Who's scared of nothing? How emotional would you be over nothing? So we use nothing thinking it refers to something. We use identity thinking that there's this unchanging thing. And actually we structure in the core of our being this like cork, this like vice, this thing that is trying to hold on to something that will never change in the middle of this incredible bunch of energies that are changing all the time, and they're fighting that change. That's the source. And then we're attacking the things that we think are coming, trying to change it, or we're trying to grab things that we think we can own by it, and we're having the samsara, right? So you have a rope tying the Queen Mary QM2 to the dock. Is there one strand of hemp that unbrokenly, the same strand that goes through the whole rope, that is this essence of the rope, the identity of the rope? No. There's millions of fibers all woven together. It's really strong and holds the Queen Mary, but there's no one thing that goes through that. Similarly, when you light a candle from another candle, is there some unchanging identity of the candle, fire, or flame that goes from one to another? I don't think so. It's just the heat kindles the motion of atoms and another fuel, and on it goes. When you put a stamp on wax, is there something that transmits from the stamp unchanged into the wax? What actually goes from one to the other? Oh, a pattern. Okay, but was the pattern the same in the metal as it is in the wax? Exactly, etc., etc. I mean, there's all these analogies to enable us to realize that the lack of absolute continuum means relative continuum. And if there were any absolute identity at any point, it couldn't relate to anything else, and therefore, if there was an absolute Dalai Lama in there, the relative Dalai Lama would be irrelevant to the relative Dalai Lama, because to be absolute, it can't relate to anything. So, like, I have absolute Bob in here, but then relative Bob can't ever get to absolute Bob, because then it wouldn't be absolute, right?